I put this video together about the work of Benjamin Harrison, who was an amateur archaeologist from the Sevenoaks area in Kent. He actually lived in Ightham, a small village just outside Sevenoaks, and ran a shop. He was a shopkeeper by trade and would get up early and spend his weekends visiting the local fields and hills around the immediate area, as well as higher up onto the plateau above his house in Ridley and Ash and Brands Hatch and these sorts of places. He was also well known among the eminent archaeologists of the day, including people like Joseph Prestwich, who was a near neighbour of his, and also Lord Avebury, who lived at High Elms nearby. Now, towards the middle and latter stages of his life, Harrison became very interested in eoliths, or dawnstones, which were considered in their day to be some of the oldest man-made items that there were, and now we would consider these from an age point of view to be around 3 to 4 million years old, but subsequently from the 1930s onwards these were no longer to be considered as man-made, although this one here, as we can see, does have a very tool-like shape. He also painted his items and his artifacts, and the Maidstone Museum have been very kind in allowing me access to his paintings and also all the other artifacts that are being shown here. And as we can see with this one, with this picture, there does seem to be a kind of tool repertoire that he was proposing. This particular one and the following one were implements that he drew on and varnished, something that we certainly wouldn't consider doing today. But amongst his items there were also some, and there are some very beautiful hand axes, and this particular one is obviously a Levallois flake that he found at the Oldbury rock shelter. Now, moving on to the eoliths and his interest in eoliths. Here we have an example, a good example of the sort of eolith that he was proposing, and as we can see, this group together does look quite interesting in its tool-like appearance. I'll leave that for you to decide as to what you think about them and what you feel about them, whether we consider them to be man-struck implements, or and if we do, whether we consider them to be of Paleolithic or Neolithic date. That's something that we perhaps can decide. The next one is a rather interesting one, because it does have various characteristics of some of the eoliths that Worthington Smith was finding in Norfolk, and it does have a rather sort of keel-shaped appearance, but this particular one has got a striking platform on the top right hand of the picture. It was found about 140 metres above sea level at Ash, and as we can see with the next one as well, some of the items do have a very rolled and stained appearance, but some of them would also, as we look at them, do have striking platform. And this one on the other side, as we turn it over, we can see a striking platform on the top right hand side of the picture. So whether Harrison would consider this one to have been a Paleolith or an Eolith, we're not sure, but he was certainly very much more sort of interested with the more rudimentary items and the primitive items of some of the earlier paintings. Now, in my area of East Kent, around between Deal and Canterbury, these are the sort of artifacts that I'm finding, which aren't massively different in terms of coloration and appearance, but these are from the lower terraces, around about 40 metres above sea level, and would equate to the same terrace height as Sturry and Swanscombe, and as we can see, they do have, this one particularly, a rather rolled and battered appearance, possibly, which would back up the possibility that these may be terrace finds. Going back to some of the implements that I picked from the Harrison collection, which do have an appearance of Paleoliths, see what you think about these. This one in particular, a very rolled and stained appearance, found at Boxley. The next one, also having a striking platform, very keel-like in its shape, but again having a striking platform, this one found at Ash, which is high up on the plateau. And again, all of these have a very ochreous, as Harrison would have called them, appearance. And finally, the group of implements here, whether we would consider these to be of man-struck origin or natural, this is something that we might need to reconsider. But amongst Harrison's collection, we can find some rather tantalizing implements and items that may be worth re-evaluating at some point.